Thank you. Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 6 weeks ago, the Senate, on a bipartisan basis, gathered with President Zelensky in the old Senate chamber. It was an historic and memorable moment. Many things were said about the courage of the Ukrainian people, which were well-deserved. But I recall one particular statement made by President Zelensky, which I'd like to ask you about this morning. He was asked about the course of the war and said the heroism of his people has been demonstrated over and over again. But he said, without the continued financial support of the United States and NATO, we will lose this war. He was unequivocal. He repeated it. Without the financial support of the United States and NATO, we will lose this war. Secretary Austin, was he exaggerating?
He was not, Senator. As you know, we have provided significant amounts of security assistance to Ukraine. And not only that, based upon our leadership, our example, some 50 other countries have come in and worked with us in a coalition to also provide assistance. And so they've provided some $35 billion of their own to this overall effort. And I think our leadership in this effort really, really matters.
Secretary Blinken, we know why we're asking these questions. The proposals coming from the new Speaker of the House suggest that he would fund the support for Israel requested by the administration, but not fund the support for Ukraine. In the starkest terms, what would that mean if we were to step back and not fund support for the people of Ukraine to repel Putin at this moment?
Senator, I think it would do both terrible harm to our values, but also to our core interests. Values because I think all of us are united in wanting to respond to aggressors, to bullies who try to lord it over their neighbors. And in the midst of doing that, inflict incredible suffering on people.
What impact would that have on NATO?
I'm sorry?
What impact would it have on NATO if the United States does not fund support?
Well, I'd say two things. First, what we've seen is a remarkable coming together of our NATO alliance, an alliance that's actually grown stronger and larger as a result of Putin's aggression. An alliance that's also stepped up in a major way. Its individual members, in terms of burden sharing, we often, and rightly, have concerns in different conflicts in the past about inadequate burden sharing. This is an instance where we've seen very significant burden sharing that would almost certainly go away if we go away. If you look at it, total assistance to Ukraine going back to February of 2022, the United States has provided about $75 billion, our allies and partners, $90 billion. If you look at budget support, the United States has provided about $22 billion during that period, allies and partners, $49 billion during that period. Military support, we provided about $43 billion, allies and partners, $33 billion. Humanitarian assistance, the United States, $2.3 billion, allies and partners, $4.5 billion, plus another 18 to 20 billion in caring for the many refugees who went to Europe and outside of Ukraine. So I think what the message it would send, first of all, to each and every one of these countries is if the United States is abandoning ship, well, we may as well do too. And second, our alliance itself is founded on the proposition that we're all in this together. I think they would see this as a retreat from our own responsibilities. Finally, and this is very important, and you heard the Secretary of Defense say this, there is no doubt in my mind that if Putin is allowed to continue to act with impunity, that not only would he not stop at Ukraine and potentially go to a NATO country next, which would invoke our Article 5 obligations to our allies and partners, it would send a message to would-be aggressors everywhere in the world that if he can get away with it, so can we. And then we're likely to have a world full of conflict, and that's a world that's not good for the United States. We are much better sustaining our effort now, seeing this to success, than having to pay a much higher price later when we have to deal with a world full of aggression.
Mr. Secretary, it can't be a coincidence that Putin would invite the head of the Hamas terrorist organization to Moscow just days after the October 7th attack, the terrible massacre which you described in some detail, and I've heard so many depictions. So do you believe there is an allied effort between Putin's cause and the cause of the Hamas terrorists?
Putin is very much trying to take advantage of the Hamas attack on Israel in the hopes that it will distract us, that it will divert our focus away from Ukraine and away from his aggression in Ukraine, and that it will result in the United States pulling back its resources, pulling back its support. And at the same time, he's allied with the exact elements that are trying to wreak havoc in Israel. So we see these things as being very much joined, which is one of the reasons our request is a joint request.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Graham.
Thank you.